time for a fireside chat. So we'll get the fire going. I'm going to cook up some bacon and eggs. Finn told me he was hungry, so better cook him something. Watch your hands when you're doing this. Okay, this time I figured I would just start the fire from my broken ferro rod. I got a little chunk. Just gonna shave off some small pieces. Usually you like the quick fires, I think, but I just want to show the importance of hanging on to even a broken piece of ferro rod. Very fine pieces is what I want. Some bigger ones is fine. This down here. Keep feeding it. Keep it covered. And there you go. Broken piece of ferro rod. Well, I got 2 pounds of bacon here, but Finn will probably eat most of it. I like bacon too, but well, that's a mess of bacon. This is thick sliced bacon. But I sure didn't need this much. I got way too much in here. Oh, piece fell on fire, whatever. We'll get that out here. I was pretty hungry. Finn's hungry. We'll have something to eat first, and then we'll get to the story. It's a really cool story. Gentle. Very gentle. Good boy. I always like these farm fresh eggs. Finn likes eggs too. A little bit of bacon grease and some little pieces of bacon in there. That's fine. We'll have something to eat and then we'll tell our story. Just about done. It's done. Perfect. Okay, there we go. This story goes back to the year 1976. You're gonna like it. Pretty cool story. Want that, Finn? Gentle. Good boy. You'll get some more, don't worry. You have to listen to my story too, Finn. It's very intriguing. So anyway, I'm 13, it's 1976, and I'll tell you some motivating factors to what I decided to do this particular summer holiday. In school, I could see out the classroom Golden Ears Mountains, which were across the Fraser River, and I always thought, you know, man, I wasn't concentrating on schoolwork, didn't really like school. I just wanted to be up there in those mountains. Now, I had read Bradford Angier several times, How to Stay Alive in the Woods. I had another survival book as well, Larry Dean Olson, Outdoor Survival Skills. Two of the motivating things for me, I wanted to be in the mountains. So I came up with a scheme. I was going to run away from home during summer holidays. And I talked to a friend of mine, Calvin Mushin actually. And he seemed keen to go on this adventure because I had read and seen documentaries on Dick Proenneke, who went into the Alaskan wilderness, built a cabin. He was a master woodworker. You know, amazing. You should really look up Dick Proenneke because fascinating story. Moved into the Alaskan wilderness, 1968, at the age of 51. Built a cabin, basically lived off the land from time to time. He had a friend that would fly supplies in, and but otherwise, basically lived off the land. His cabin's actually a museum site now, but you should look into that story. The other thing was, I had seen the movie Jeremiah Johnson several times. I wanted to be this mountain man, this Jeremiah Johnson. So at 13, I was determined I'm going to run away and go live in the bush like Dick Proenneke and like the movie Jeremiah Johnson, be a mountain man. I had read the survival book several times, started several bow drill fires. I'm going to start this up in a minute. There's the smoke again. Every time I do a fireside chat, I got to move around a bit. It's a bit better for now. That's all I wanted. I didn't like school. I didn't want to be in class. I just wanted to be up in those Golden Ear Mountains, building my cabin like Jeremiah Johnson and Dick Proenneke. Actually, you know, the movie Jeremiah Johnson, the book that I had read, Larry Dean Olson's book, Outdoor Survival Skills, he was the consultant on Jeremiah Johnson, the movie. Showed the survival tricks and this and that. And the problem was the illustrations, like for example in Bradford Angier's book, How to Stay Alive in the Woods. Well, they were black and white drawings. You couldn't learn your plants from these books. I mean, these illustrations were so bad. It was like a grade 5er drawing stickmen. Like you couldn't tell a dandelion from a stinging nettle. It wasn't until, you know, later that they started having comprehensive survival, not survival, but plant books where you could actually learn these things properly. They would tell you a few things about the plant, but try to identify a plant from these illustrations, forget it. Back in my day when I was starting to learn these things. But anyway, I was determined. So, gonna run away. Gonna live in the bush, build my cabin, man. Summer holidays come around and I'm getting ready. Day comes to leave into the wilderness. Well, I get a hold of my buddy Calvin. No, he had changed his mind. No, he wasn't going to come on this adventure. Sounded like a great idea. He liked the idea all summer, but now, time to go, he didn't like it. So I head off on myself, by myself I should say, and took the family dog, wrote a note. I'm going into the bush, to my parents obviously. Don't bother looking for me, I'm going to be happy, I'll be fine. You know, of course, not being realistic at 13. I mean, I was just learning survival skills. It's not like I'm some kind of expert. I'm 13. A lot to learn yet, right? Not only that, you're not legally allowed to be on your own anyway. But it was a fantasy, a dream of mine to go and live like that. So I went through with it. I actually did go through with it. So I head out early in the morning, like first light. Little bit of frost on the ground. I brought a knife and a few things, and the family dog, like I said. And I start hiking down the creek, and I want to get near the Fraser River. There was a lot of bush back in those days. I mean, we had deer and bear and everything all around us. I mean, it wasn't a big city back then. It was like just bush almost. And I go for quite a ways. I'm getting down towards the Fraser River, following the creek to the Fraser River, because I knew I had to get across that river. That was the thing. Well, I'm trying to think, well, there is a ferry in Fort Langley, and that's quite a ways away. I got to follow the Fraser to where the ferry is, get across the river, and then head up to Golden Ears into the mountains. The other thing is I'm thinking, well, what if the ferry people won't let me on the ferry? Too young. Where's your parents? They could ask questions too. There was all kinds of things. You know, once you make the move and you make the plunge, as they say. I got far enough, I figured, for the night. It's still early in the day, but I've been gone quite a few hours now. I did bring some fishing line and some hooks, and I caught a couple of trout out of the creek. And I caught by hand some little minnows. Like, you know, there's these 3-4 inch minnows, and you could just let your hand sit in the current. And when they swam over you could just lift them up, grab them. Got a bunch of them, probably half a dozen. It was a sunny day, so I found a flat rock, and I've got my minnows sitting on the flat rock, sun drying. I cooked one fish up for me, one for the dog, and then was sun drying these minnows for the rest of the trip until I got into a better area, got across the river. I realized, okay, well, before I try to get across the river, I better build a shelter. So I built a shelter, lean-to, basically just a tripod situation with, I was using bracken fern, sword fern, layered it, then put maple leaves over, a debris shelter. So I'm pretty much getting prepared, boy. The first day's going pretty good. Got big plans, Greg did at 13, building his log cabin out there in the wilderness. You know, as it turns out, just before dark, and of course I got discovered by Dad. He had kind of figured where I might go. Basically, he did show up, and I was devastated. One day is all I got on my survival adventure. My whole dream of building this cabin, living off the land, was just shattered overnight. Well, in one day. I didn't even get to spend a night. My lean-to I built, cooked my fish, drying fish. But you know, it still was a memorable occasion as far as taking the plunge and doing it. I don't really regret it. But how realistic was I being when you think about being 13? I didn't have the knowledge I have today about survival. I didn't have the means. It was unrealistic, but it was quite the dream of mine. And now here I am. I'm pretty much living my dream that I had when I was 13 in a way. I'm on my own, out here in the wilderness. I haven't built a cabin yet. I still haven't built a cabin. I hope to in the future. But you know, like, be realistic, you young folks. You know, your parents have your best interests at heart. So, you know, I knew quite a few plants even at that age, despite the difficulty of learning plants because of the really, I don't know what would be the word, primitive ways they tried to show you plants in these books. It was just ridiculous to learn plants, but I did know quite a few. I was eating some on the way as well. I knew traps. I knew a lot of the techniques in these books. Set certain traps. I had caught raccoon, a possum, made live traps, caught neighbors' cats, like in live traps, didn't kill them. So I guess even for my age, I had a fair amount of survival knowledge, but just not practical in the sense of thinking I was going to make it on my own at that age. So sometimes I guess we all fantasize about things we want, things we dream about. The reality for me was I ended up just having to go home. Eventually I got old enough, bought a car, moved away, never went back to the lower mainland. Went up north and worked, found a job, kept doing drywall most of my life. But here I am living the dream. I'm still going to build my cabin, and I'm still going to keep learning and teaching you folks survival techniques. I'm working on a book. I've already started it, and I hope to have that done in a few months. Hopefully you'll support that project. And I'll even share some other stories maybe in my book. I appreciate you all for watching the videos. I want to thank you subscribers especially, but all you viewers as well. I appreciate you all. And if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be doing these videos. But I really do enjoy telling these little stories, even if they're short and sweet. And we'll see you on the next Fireside Chat. Right on.